But my point was really that I had to wait sort of 6-7 months, and while I'm very fortunate to have a very loving family and friends, and I live on a farm, and I find being around nature helpful when I'm really struggling. But I was just very aware that someone who didn't support...
Oh gosh, I don't know what that was on the back. Sounded like a duck or something. Anyway, sorry, you were saying.
I'm actually calling from the tracking seat. Yeah, I just want to say really that, it does seem that there's the services do sort of struggle to keep up, and that waiting 6 or 7 months when you're acutely unwell and struggling with sort of suicidal thoughts most days. As I say, my GP is fantastic if I needed to see him. I got the impression I'd just drop everything and was just fantastic. But waiting that long until you can see a professional to have sort of weekly support, it was a bit of a struggle.
Thanks so much for that, James.
We've had a lot of emails in actually about waiting times, reiterating what James has said. Matthew was put on a list to receive cognitive behavioural therapy in March this year. Initially he was told it would be a wait of between 6 and 9 weeks, then it turned to 12 weeks, and now he's still been waiting 18 weeks. He says that because of his problems, he's now facing unemployment. Another person has emailed in with a personality disorder. They said that they would be able to get some treatment in March of next year. They say that that's a 10-month wait, and they're not sure they can wait that long.
Sam, thanks. Keep those emails coming. You and yours at bbc.co.uk. This is Call You and Yours with me, Winfried Robinson. Today we're asking if you have noticed a difference in mental health services in recent years. The government has put extra money in and given mental and physical health illnesses equal priority in law. But at the same time, research suggests some services are being severely rationed. Tell us about your experiences, please. Ring 03700 100 444. There'll be more calls in a moment after Martha Carney's told us what's in the world at 1. Martha.
Thanks, Winifred. Well, we'll be kicking off with the news that the economy is now back to where it was before the 2008 financial crash. So what does that mean for interest rates? And are we seeing growth in the right areas? We hear from a tech entrepreneur whose business is booming, but also from a builder in Yorkshire who says the northern powerhouse is a dead duck. Turkey's ambassador to the UK tells me his country is now prepared to take on Islamic State in response to the group's recent bomb in which 32 people were killed. A court in Libya has sentenced Colonel Gaddafi's son and 8 others to death over war crimes linked to the 2011 revolution. Our World Affairs editor John Simpson joins us from Tripoli. And should people who've undergone a sex change be entitled to a Christian baptism? That's all in the World at 1 in half an hour.
Thanks, Martha. On Call You and Yours today, we're asking if you've noticed any difference in mental health services in recent years. Call us now, please, 03700 100 444. We're talking about it today because there's been so much research suggesting that services are not meeting people's needs. Last week, the University of Manchester published a study on suicides among mental health patients. It said the number of suicides reached a 10-year high in 2013, with 1,876 deaths. The biggest increase was among men aged 45 to 54. Jake Mills is a comedian who's had treatment for mental health problems. He tried to take his own life 2 years ago. He's just launched his own charity. It's called Chasing the Stigma. He's in our studio in Merseyside. Jake, welcome to You and Yours. Tell us what happened to you.
Thank you. My story I suffered from depression, which led to a suicide attempt at the end of the year in 2013. And for me, I'd never really had any previous mental illness or
How old were you, Jake?
23 I was at the time. And it's kind of like I'd never had anything before, anything that would kind of trigger depression apart from just a normal work or money or relationships and things like that. And it's hard to say when or why I became depressed, but I did over a period of time. And for me, I went into the GP. I went about 3 or 4 times, and I have to say the lack of consistency throughout them visits was really, really shocking. The first time I went in, asking for help in a really serious position, I went in and I actually ended up leaving quite upset because of the way that it was handled. It was like an interrogation. It was like I was being accused of why am I having these thoughts? And it was a kind of, well, I'm the doctor, I'll be the expert of what you're going through type thing. And I end up leaving, and I left in a really, really upset, vulnerable, really horrendous way.
How did you come out of it, Jake?
I ended up going back a couple of times, and I went to counselling as well. And for me, the counselling was really ineffective. I actually felt worse leaving the counselling sessions than when I went in. I would be in there for around 40 to 50 minutes. I would open up these wounds that I really didn't quite close again, and then I would leave and feel worse, and I have to kind of get through the week in my own way. I actually started lying to the counsellor just to kind of get me through, because I dreaded going, and she discharged me. And 2 weeks after, or a week or two after I was discharged, I actually tried to take my own life.
What did help you?
For me, the best thing I ever did was speak publicly about my battle, what I'd gone through, and to try and release that burden of guilt and shame that I was carrying around. And it was only when I spoke out about it was that I realised that, I had nothing to be kind of feel ashamed about. I had nothing to feel guilty about. I'd gone through an illness, I was still going through an illness, but by speaking out publicly, I was able to kind of acknowledge that it was an illness and that there was help out there for me, and that was what done me more favours than anything else.
You're a young man, but the research from Manchester University suggested that the age of men who are trying to take their own lives and taking their own lives has risen, so that the big increase is among the middle-aged. Why do you think that might be?
I think it all comes down to both the stigma that's attached to it, and also this idea of what it's meant to be a man. If you imagine a middle-aged man, you've got loads of different types, but you're at a stage in your life when you're meant to be at a certain level in a job, or have a family, or you've got a lot of things that you're meant to live up to. And I think it's that idea of what we're meant to be is really what is totally damaging. And I think it comes back down to that mental illness or depression or suicidal thoughts or anything like that is seen as a weakness to a lot of people, and that's wrong. It's not a weakness, but it is seen as a weakness. And it's
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on. I'll stop you there because we've got so many callers who want to come on. I'm Paul Farmer, the Chief Executive of Mind. I know you have to go in a moment, but I wonder if you'd just address one thing that's been in the newspapers, the fact that people in crisis are going to mental hospitals, sometimes miles and miles from home. Why does that make any sense?
Well, it doesn't, frankly. It doesn't help the individual either in their recovery journey, because often what people want to do is to come home and get back to their home, or get close to where they live. And this kind of problem around out-of-area treatment is really a growing issue. And I think it's something that it needs to be addressed in terms of the way in which services are commissioned, both at a local